very good. We're going to call to order the Code Enforcement Committee meeting for January 5th at 9:27 p.m. All right. We've already done silent meditation and the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Here. Here.
Present. Very good. All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Very good.
I'll second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second for approval of agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Hearing none, we'll move on to the first item, which is the introduction of our new code enforcement officer. First, I do want to acknowledge, Madam Manager, that you've been on your feet most of this evening. So I'm more than satisfied if you give a brief introduction, and we can even take from. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'll make it brief because she's not here, and I did invite our new code enforcement officer. Her name is Michelle Shariar. She comes to the Village of El Portal from the City of Hollywood, where she was a code compliance officer, and prior to that stint with the City of Hollywood, she worked at Surfside as a code enforcement officer. She also has a wealth of experience working in government, where she worked for the state of Florida, Department of Economic Opportunity for a number of years as a customer service specialist. And we're really happy to have her on board. She started yesterday, so we kind of gave her the night off, but she was here all day. And that was, yeah, so we're happy to have her. And she has some wonderful qualifications, certifications in code enforcement, and her educational background is quite impressive. So we're happy to have added another wonderful qualified candidate to our ranks, and we hope to invite her to our March Code Enforcement Committee meeting, where she will have had a little more experience and have more to report to the committee.
Absolutely. Yes, I was looking through her resume, and I was glad to see that she also seems to have experience, dealing with people as well. So she's got that code enforcement, background, which is incredibly valuable. But it does also seem that she's also probably pretty adept at dealing with people. So very much looking forward to officially welcoming her when we have that opportunity. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I saw the code enforcement vehicle zipping around the village today. So that brings me to the next item. Which is so I couldn't believe it, honestly. I was out in the front yard doing something. I just happened to look down the street at the moment that it crossed, one of the cross streets, and I'm thinking, no way. So okay. So are we still in the exact same situation that we have been?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We are still in dire straits with that vehicle.
I don't know if she had some mechanical experience in her background, or
that part.
Okay, how the vehicle got to be running, or okay.
Well, I can report that last week our public works and maintenance staffer, Mr. Hernandez, went and had the car washed and cleaned and
That's awesome.
Freshened up for her, filled up the tank and everything. So yesterday, Ms. Shariar started, and she and I rode the village for a couple of hours. I showed her around and showed her some hot spots, and just,
Sure.
And we even stopped over at the skate park, but I said, leave the car on. We just get out and say hi. We got out, said hi to Mr. Strauss, who's over there doing his development at the skate park. We got back in the car, came on back to the village hall. I said, park next to me, because I know you'll go back out, in a moment. We couldn't get the started.
Okay.
So let me just, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
if I may, and Madam Manager, and this is when the manager called me yesterday, and I said, what's going on? She said, so the new code enforcement officer started. I said, yeah. I said, oh man, that's great. I said, that's great. She started. She said, yeah, the car, after we parked, it didn't start. It wouldn't start. I said, and this is exactly what I said, Christia, on her first day, Christia said yes on her first. I said, this is so embarrassing.
It's
on her first day. So I just wanted to say that it's funny, it's hilarious, but this, you guys, further goes to show, just like with the police department cars, like our car situation is serious.
Yes, and so that is why I termed item F, just 3 words, vehicle crisis. And then that last word is really the kicker, and that's solution. So I had spoken with the manager about the possibility of acquiring some vehicle, right? You know, so for example, if in her purview, she can spend up to $5,000 without asking the council, you know, I was explaining, I've worked in the car business a couple times in my life. And so I'm sitting here thinking, is it worth it to go out and just do that hunting and find an old used vehicle that runs better than this one, that can be maintained and kept running with, you know, simple oil change and simple maintenance, right? Even for a time, to get us to where we can replace the vehicle properly. And so manager outlined fairly clearly why that's just not a good option to chase down and pursue. And so, but we do need to solve this problem because, you know, I believe the vehicle had, at least, I'm sure we all agree, had something to do with Officer King looking, you know, elsewhere. So this is going to go directly to retention. This is going to go directly to, you know, the ability of, we have an officer with, you know, a skill set. I'm so thankful that we were able to find another candidate who has a similar skill set to Officer King, right? Because he was just so valuable. And so now we have someone, I mean, I feel it's very fortunate. We have someone who does have the experience, hit the ground running, and can, you know, do what the residents expect out of code enforcement, right? And so now it's just similar to what the police officers are dealing with. We're down to equipment issues. The good news is they can be solved. The bad news is we really need to possibly get imaginative here. So, do we have any development whatsoever on that car specifically?
Well, the development is that I did have it repaired. The bottom line is we need a reliable vehicle program, and that is going to be the fleet management that we propose for these police vehicles. The code enforcement vehicle will be one of those as well. It also needs to be striped. It also has to have a light bar.
Right.
So, you know, it will be a part of the fleet that we're going to have to acquire.
Okay, so then with her driving around again today,
yes.
does that mean that we found the cause of it not starting and have fixed that, even temporarily?
No, not really. They
Okay.
couldn't find out. That's why we got it back today. We took it in yesterday afternoon. We got it back today. They can't find the problem. There's some electrical issue. They've tried the alternator. It has a brand new battery. Well, not brand new, but it has a battery that we just replaced about 6 months ago. It's an old vehicle, and you know, it doesn't look too bad, but it's really on its last legs, and you know, like one of the windows doesn't go down. So it's got some issues. It's older. I know how that is. I drive an older car. So we're on, you know, borrowed time with that, but I would like for that vehicle to be a part of the new program that we are going to hopefully find a solution, and that could also be a part of the fleet.
If we can solve the fleet problem in March, so we have, let's see, mid-year budget review, then we have committee meetings, and, you know, of course, the full council meeting at the end of the month. If we are able to solve and declare, okay, this is what we're going to take action and move forward on our fleet plan, this is what we're doing, this is how we're funding it, and we solve that fleet plan issue in March, will that be in time for
I hope so.
I mean, I know we've been limping along here for several months already.
Right. I
You
hope
know,
so.
so
I don't
okay.
know. And I hope we can. You know, we're in a situation now with the pickup truck. We were able to secure the funding for that from the from gas tax.
I got
That's
you.
what we're using that for.
Okay.
But it can only be used for road work, and because part
Sure.
of what Public Works does is road work, we're
Okay.
able to use those funds. We can't use that for.
Okay,
code
but that is
enforcement.
helpful because then we don't have to, okay.
Right, we don't have to.
It's at least
use-
one other problem solved.
Right,
Okay.
so that one has the CFO has to order that vehicle, and that comes in from the state, but that's coming. But this one is an issue that will be a part of the police fleet.
Okay, and then in terms of, so in terms of that fleet, the fleet plan is not the issue. Funding the fleet plan
Right.
is the issue, right?
Funding the fleet plan
And
is-
part of the fleet plan does include a single vehicle for code enforcement.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. So then I believe that the three of us here, comprising of both committees and full council, are probably, we're not going to have a choice but to solve the fleet plan problem in March. This is all everything points to. There must be a solution for the fleet plan in March.
Yes.
Okay, and so perhaps the guarantee that we will have a solution by March will be what helps us to retain our highly qualified officer up to that point, and then by delivering on that beyond.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And part of the fleet plan that, I know we've talked about this for months, even with the former council, that it could be even in phases if that helps, but just, we have to. do
right,
something
most
that-
critical first, and certainly that car is going to qualify for
Yes,
most
for the
critical
most
first. Okay,
Right.
all right, very good. So then without dwelling on it, I will, I'll be in touch with you as we talk to CFO, just from code enforcement, and just keep up on discussions so that in March we have an actionable plan for that fleet.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Do you have anything else that you want to add regarding the?
The car?
Yeah.
Just that, our new code enforcement officer, Michelle Shariar, is a very good sport. She's got a lot, to learn about the village, so she wants to be out there, and,
Sure.
even though we got the car back, she got right out there immediately, so that's why you saw it
Yeah.
zipping around. We're able, because it's a small village, if something happens, Mr. Hernandez can come out and jump the car, hope needed, but,
Right.
That's not a cure, so.
So then doing something even drastic, like dropping $2,500 on like a good solid golf cart is not really what we need to do if we're going to be able to solve the fleet plan in March.
I don't know about a golf cart.
Well,
We-
I mean-
let something to think about.
I'm trying to think of something that's
Yeah,
reliable,
something immediate.
low cost,
Uh-huh.
and within your ability to just take action on.
Let me think about it. Let me
okay.
think on it. Something that was proposed to us before, and what is happening now, Mr. Hernandez is getting a car allowance as he uses his own personal car to do
Okay.
public works. That is not gonna be a long-term plan
Right.
because it's personal vehicle, and it takes a beating,
Sure.
because of that. But we are giving him a car allowance for
Okay.
that. I would consider that. I wanna talk to our CFO to see if that
Okay,
is an opportunity possibly, but that's more of.
sure.
me
Because
getting creative.
even if it is a golf cart, it's still going to have to be
Yeah.
like we won't be able to lease it because we're going to have to mark it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It'll be marked.
All right. I open it up to the committee. Anybody have any questions about this?
Well, the question I have, if you can refresh our minds about the pricing of the fleet being, do you have those numbers?
Not on me at this
Not on you at
moment,
this
I'm
time?
sorry.
Okay. I just
in
wanted to
the
know.
first year, it's 85,000.
Yes.
85,000?
Yes.
So,
Right. I remember it
about
was
7,000 a
something
month,
significant
something like that.
initially, and then after that-
7,200 a month, a month, pretty much, something like that. Okay.
so Mr. Chair, that was going to be my not question, but it was going to be my suggestion, because I don't want anybody to think that that when we're saying fleet plan, we're like talking about going out spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, just like replacing all the cars, like brand new from a lot. This is a plan through Enterprise, you guys, through Enterprise, and they do this for municipalities where, as you heard the chief say earlier, like that car graveyard we have out there, they'll take those cars, even give us discounts on other things, but they're used to doing this. They do this with all the other municipalities. So it's basically like they give you, it's like you're leasing cars basically. So they'll give you like the amount of police cars you need. They'll give you the code enforcement car, which would be a little compact car. There was a list of the type of cars that you could choose from. I think the code enforcement car was like a Ford. It was a small compact car.
It was a smaller vehicle.
Yeah, it was a small, like a Ford Fiesta type of, like it was a small compact car. So it's not like we're talking about, when we say fleet plans, it's not like we're talking about going out and just going to like we won a lottery or something, going to a dealership and just picking a whole bunch of cars. It's not like that. It's through a program. You can come up, just say your name and address for the record, and then you can say whatever.
Kevin Hines, 200 Northeast 85th Street. But how much did they, how much?
So-
That sounded very expensive.
So I don't have it in front of me, but okay, so, our chief actually went through and did all of this legwork, which we discussed over the past year. So this has been an ongoing discussion for over a year now.
Mhm.
And what he was able to find was that by us going out and individually replacing vehicles and then maintaining those vehicles ourselves, it becomes, over the long term, we end up spending an exorbitant amount of money doing that.
Right.
So what the manager has found through Enterprise is a company, Enterprise, who is willing to do essentially, you take every vehicle in the fleet, you put it on a 5-year life plan.
Right.
And so they will take care of the maintenance on that during the life. At the end of the 5 years, that vehicle gets replaced.
Right.
And all of that is rolled into essentially an annual cost.
Right.
The initial cost for us to get that plan going, and on day one, the fleet will essentially be up to date. Most critical, there'll still be, I think 4 police vehicles left to take care of the following year. I think we have 4 vehicles that'll still be good in that first year. The following year, they'll be at their 5th year of service, and they'll be rolled into that plan. And so the initial cost to get that plan going in that first year is $85,000.
Okay.
But if you measure that against buying vehicles a la carte and then maintaining them ourselves, we're already exceeding that cost fairly considerably. And so it became clear that it was not going to be feasible for us to a la carte replace our vehicles and then also do all of the maintenance ourselves.
Right.
And so this has been, it's probably closer to 2 years, but
Yeah.
it's certainly been over a year that this has been hashed out, researched, discussed in multiple committees,
Right.
and then with CFO involved, chief of police involved, manager involved, mayor's involved. So
How many cars is it?
I believe we're talking, I want to say 9.
Yes, it's 9 cars, and then the code enforcement car, so it'll be 10.
So 10 cars.
Nine
How many officers do we have working at each time? At a time, how many officers are there? Sounds like we've got a lot of cars sitting there.
No, our vehicles are take-home vehicles for our full-time officers.
Yeah.
Oh,
The others are to be here for our part-time,
Part-time.
non-compensatory. So
Oh.
we need, those vehicles will be going home with these officers. The graveyard you see over here is just all the vehicles that no longer run. The reason they're there is because we want to use them for a trade-in for this price. So it's $82,000 to start, or $85,000 to start, but once they start doing the trades, which it's not going to be more than $1,200, $1,000 maybe per vehicle,
right.
but it will take down the price a bit, and at least we get that lot cleared out.
Are we maintaining those?
No, those were donated by other municipalities to us, and then when we received them is when we essentially found out they weren't functioning.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
it was a great idea, and we're glad the other municipalities thought to do that for us. But the truth is, from day one, they weren't functioning as they arrived.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yes.
So have the officers always been able to take the cars home, and that's just always been?
No.
So that was something that changed as part of the PBA contract negotiations. It changed a little while ago, maybe a year
Yes,
ago.
well, officially about a year.
But officially about a year ago. So that's
Wow.
part of the police union and contract negotiations and stuff like that. It kind of became that situation. I did want to add that once you're into this program, Enterprise, we don't have to worry about taking our cars to get anything done anymore.
Right.
It's like getting a rent-a-car. Enterprise, they upkeep it. So that's part of that also. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that $85,000 because back then when we got that quote, that included the public works truck.
Yes,
Right.
it did.
Exactly.
And now we
Right.
already
Now
took
we-
care of the public works truck, so that
Yeah.
would be taken out, so it'd be
Yeah.
even cheaper than that.
Yeah.
That was part of it also.
How many officers do we have?
Full-time, 8.
Eight?
Yeah, but altogether we have, because I know I have the bios.
No, not,
Plus, no, without the chief.
Without the
The
chief.
chief.
right, the officers on the road, 8, and we
Yeah.
have,
Right. 8 plus the chief.
right,
Yeah,
and then
and,
non-compensatory officers who are volunteers who work as well. So we have 19 people.
All right, terrific. Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, just, you got it. And then just please, name and address once you get to the podium.
My name is Velvet Connolly, and my address is 355 Northeast 87th Street. And I was just wondering, because I remember at the last meeting, I don't remember what the label of that meeting was, but I remember you bringing up a point about us entering into some type of strategic partnerships as being a small town or a small village, and how that might be interesting for companies to be able to get press more easily in this area. And El Portal being a nature preserve as well as a bird sanctuary, I wonder if it's an opportunity to create some type of program where you actually switch over all of your fleets to, all of your cars to clean energy. Because right now, right, the electric car market is something that's trying to really gain traction, right? And a small village like this, if it's just 8 or 9 cars, to be able to switch over to electric cars, right, might be something really interesting. And I also was curious if that would have any tax incentive for you guys, or if there would be grants available because it's switched over to clean energy.
Yeah, so that, in theory, could work for the code enforcement vehicle, but we would be limited to which vehicles we were able to essentially. So for the police themselves to use, we would need like state-of-the-art Teslas, for example, that are outfitted for police work, right? For us to pull that off, we would need that to be donated. So I suppose that is a possibility. It never hurts to ask, and that's certainly something we could do is outreach.
If I may.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I've
I
asked
bet you
about
have an
that,
answer for this.
And
Yeah.
the answer is that that wouldn't be a police-grade vehicle. It's not something that would be a reliable police-grade vehicle for police officers.
Okay.
Like-
Also, then we have to deal with the charging of the vehicles for electric. And though we are getting this shuttle that's gonna be electric, we would have one charging station, but we don't have the capacity for what would be required for charging that kind of fleet, and also it wouldn't be police grade.
Well, just to put this out there, and again, I know nothing about this, so I'm not pretending, it was just an idea, right?
That was a good idea.
But I wouldn't look at Tesla. Tesla doesn't do any type of marketing. That's kind of their thing. They don't do any marketing, so they don't have any budget for that. There's no person in their company that handles that. But their competitor is Ford, right? And Ford has always done police vehicles, right? Like the Crown Victoria. So I'm sure they would be a better partner to reach out and see if they had an electric vehicle that would be police grade, is that how you would say it, or
Yeah.
police
Yeah.
quality? Because I mean, I'm from New York. In New York, all the police vehicles are Ford Crown Victorias.
Right.
So I would just imagine
Right,
that they
and
might
so
be a better partner.
the reason they're Crown Vics is because you have an absolutely massive V8 underneath that hood. And so similarly, you know, is El Portal going to run into a situation where we have an officer who engages in a chase, right, that takes him, say, even across county lines? Let's say, you know, the chase initiates in El Portal and they end up going long distance, right? So that would be one concern that law enforcement would have for using electric versus gas. And then you get into some other issues, but it comes down to the specs, right? And so I do think it's worth looking into, and but we would be in a situation where that would only be feasible if it was an outright donation. Now, is that possible? Sure. I mean, it never hurts to ask at all. And then also as a long-term plan of getting to a point, maybe we try and work towards getting on a list where when that starts to roll out, we're one of the first municipalities that gets, an electric fleet. And we might be attractive to a manufacturer because we're only we would only be asking for 9 vehicles, right? And so that's entirely within the world of possibility. So,
I'll just say this, I'll end here, right? I could see 3 potentials for that as far as benefits, right? Because it may be something that Ford is already working on and we don't know, right? And this being a small municipality, there might be a better opportunity for a pilot program here than like in a bigger city. Another thing I could see is I know that there are federal tax incentives and grants available for specifically electric vehicles. So that might be a profit center for the county.
absolutely.
Or the village, as well as maybe saving on taxes. I don't know how it works where you guys pay taxes or not, so I don't know. But I know they offer me a tax break
Yeah.
if I have an electric vehicle. So that might be something also to help with generating some funds. And then the type of attention, if you guys did do something like that it might bring to El Portal for other companies to recognize that you guys are a place where they could run programs and offer donations to you for other things. It might be leverage for other programs.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please, yes.
Yeah, I think I think that would be wonderful if we could do that. That would be wonderful. So the enterprise program that the other municipalities use, so they use Fords. They use Ford for their police cars and things like that. Part of that price, they fit all the police cars. They fit them with everything that they need. All the police cars, they need certain things. You know what I mean? Inside, they need certain things. They need to be fitted a certain way. The enterprise program does that also. So that's part of that price also. Right. So not only do they fit things, but so that enterprise program, since they do all, the police cars, since they do the police cars throughout the county and things like that, what we can do is look into the program and say, hey, do you guys have a electric option that you guys use for police cars? I don't know. I haven't seen in any municipality in Miami-Dade County where they do have electric police cars. I don't know, but we could ask. The problem with that with us would be not that we can never do it. It's just that it may not be able to be done for a while. And like he said, it would be. I think we should put that down for a long-term plan, Vice Mayor, because the problem with that would be with us is the logistics of, as the manager said, if we have 9, 10, or 11, whatever car fleet of electric cars, we need to have the electric charging stations for all those cars. We need to logistically find a way to do that here at Village Hall. The reason why we're talking about all this type of stuff, we need this stuff, and like I said, I've been working on a lot of things with the manager and the attorney, like ideas that I'm going to be presenting to the council to get some money in here at no extra cost to the village or the taxpayers and things like that, is because we don't have any business tax here. We don't have that, you guys. So you guys have to understand when we're talking about, okay, we're going to transform and, get these, 9 whatever electric charging stations for these cars that we would need if the enterprise program had electric cars. We always have to go out and find grants for this stuff, Now, the thing about it is good, not to get too political, and I'll end it here, Vice Mayor, is that, now with the, on the national level with the new administration that's about to come in, things are going to be really, good again. I've been up here on the council, man, for like 11, 12 years, I was vice mayor before the vice mayor now for like 6, 7 years, So I remember when Obama was in office, I remember the lag from when Obama was leaving, and then the change to where we could get grants and we could get funding for green stuff and environmental stuff and electric cars, and there was funding for that type of stuff. And then when the transition happened, to the president that's still in office right now, that stuff dried up. You know, so maybe with the new administration coming in, what you're saying is perfect timing, is what I'm trying to say. You know, maybe there will be now grants opening up again for electric and environmental situations and things like that. So maybe it's a good thing. But we would need grants and stuff to help us out, just logistically, to do something like that. So, but that's a great idea. I love it.
And then I'll just say, when you had said, alternative fuels, that's what got me excited, because I'm personally waiting for hydrogen vehicles. I personally am less than excited about electric vehicles. I think it's a problem between mining and the proliferation of nuclear energy. I don't think electrifying everything is in any kind, especially not transportation. You can't electrify transportation without building more nuclear power plants. And so, the only thing more damaging than Teflon that humans invented is nuclear energy. And so, I'm personally very anxious for technologies like hydrogen fuel cells and things like this, versus the electric. But one thing, really, what we're up against is we are in a crisis with our fleet right now. Is really we don't have the luxury of time whatsoever. So. However, I think we'd be fools not to take your advice and at least look into this for future planning, certainly. That's without getting too political, even though I'm sitting on a dais of a municipality. Is where you're supposed to be political, I guess, right?
Vice Mayor, Mr. Chair, if I may, I think we can ask now. We can ask, ask if, through that fleet program, do they have electric cars that they can use for police vehicles?
And
we
then
can ask.
And our liaison for the tree board, Robert Ruano, I will speak to him also, because he has great insight into available grants and things like that. So I'll put that on my list of things to be discussing with him, because I'm expanding broadly the list of topics that we do discuss now that I found out what a talent he is. So, so there you go. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything regarding our code enforcement vehicle? All right, anybody on the committee here? I guess, do I need to announce that I'm opening it to the public and closing it? Okay, sorry, sorry. So if there's no one else who would like to comment from the public on our vehicle crisis solution, I will close public comment and open it back to the committee.
Vice Mayor, I just think that, there's things that I've brought up before, even in the last when the last council was sitting before this current council set, and those Cavista funds are something that we need to look at. It will do wonders for what we need for necessity purposes.
Definitely.
I'm open to that discussion, as long as there has to be an accounting, right? So we can say, for example, there's no need to have that much money sitting in, parks, right? Except that if we do want to buy a $500,000 property and turn it into a park, you're going to need that money, right? We lost an opportunity to buy the sanctuary for less than $1 million all those years ago, right? And so there's not going to be another opportunity perhaps to buy another property that large, but I do think there will be another opportunity for some type of acquisition of land within this village in the future. I do think that money could be used to, so interest rates are at 0 right now, but they're not going to be forever. And so I think if there's not a plan to replenish that, I think, if we're going to start taking from that, but there's no plan to replenish it, that would be counterproductive. But I am open to creating a plan where we're able to utilize some of those funds, as long as there's a well thought out long-term vision for what happens to replenish it. I think there is a case to be made that the Parks Department does need that much money, as what you call a nest egg, or what have you. So I do think there are several arguments to be made for why that Parks Fund should be funded to that degree and maintained at that level. And so I would want to see a replenishment plan, and I could be good with that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah, so just to give just a quick background. So, we have the Cavisa development going up, and I'm not gonna get too deep in the weeds on this, but we have the Cavisa development going up, and because of what they're building with the developer agreement, they would have had to develop green space because of the concrete that's going up. They would have to offset that. El Portal is so small that we don't have that. We didn't have the green space for them to develop. So instead of them developing green space as far as the development agreement that we don't have, it just doesn't exist because we're just so small, we don't have the green space to offset it. They ended up giving us money for green space development. Now, because of what they're building, Madam Manager, correct me if I'm wrong, because of what they're building and development agreement, it was 400,000 plus 400,000,
Yes,
correct?
Yes.
The 800,000.
yes,
But in total, we actually got 1,100,000.
100,000, 1.1.
1.1 million. So even if we're saying, which, let's just say, which I'm not disagreeing with you, even if we're saying, let's go with what the development agreement exactly says, even if we go with the 800,000, we still have hundreds of thousands of dollars on top of that, to where we have no business tax, to where we have failing cars, to where we have, we have so many needs. I'm not talking about any wants here, right? I'm not talking about any luxuries here. I'm talking about we have needs. We have things that are failing within the village. So even if we keep the development agreement the same, even if we keep it 800,000 the way it is, they just gave us that other money on top of that, But I wouldn't even even make a suggestion to use all of it or whatever. I would just suggest to figure out what we need and to use what we need, because even with 800,000, even with 700,000 of green space development funds that can only be used for green space, El Portal is we only got so much green space, unless we're going to be knocking down houses and building more green space. You know what I mean? So if you think about it like this: El Portal has existed all this time. We never had any money like that for green space. But you know what I mean? We got a tot lot. We're going to be developing a nature trail when we had nothing. So even if we have $800,000, $700,000 for green space that we never had in the history of El Portal, we're unless we're going to be knocking down houses, I don't know how we're going to be able to even spend that. But we do have this failing systems in El Portal that are a necessity that we have to fix. So it's just something to think about, man. I'm going to be bringing that. I'm going to be bringing that to the council.
I'm sorry if I may, and that's something that it was already too late when I got into the council, and that money was already, tied up to what it was. But I was never, in favor of total, 100% in favor of what the intent of, Mr. Mayor is saying, is. What are you going to do with $1 million and throw it in parks just because you have it there? It's when the rest of we have so many other issues that we could probably fix, and which brings it, I'm sorry if you don't mind, to the FEMA money. We're paying $1.1 million, right, or $1.2 million? What's the interest that we're paying every month? It's at $4?
No, it's about, it's 2,700 a month now.
A month now.
For the interest.
For the interest. We hopefully soon gonna be paying half of that, probably, the half of whatever we owed. Even if we get part of that money and pay the loan, we don't have to be paying interest. Because if we don't get anything else from FEMA in a few months or a year, then that loan is gonna have to be converted into an interest loan.
I agree.
So,
And before we turn this into an admin and finance meeting, all right. So
That's next week.
so there's funds there that we can,
Right.
probably,
So
later on. we
Okay,
can-
so I'm just gonna, in the next 10 to 15 years, I'm gonna give you 3 projects that we may need that money for within parks. One, a property becomes available within like a centralized location in the village that we can acquire that needs to be, like a derelict, that needs to be torn down anyway, right? We have the funds available to buy that lot and turn it into a park for the village, right? 2, let's say that grants become available for residents to start building seawalls, right? Well, we've got a park over there that no grant for any residential property is going to cover. So in the next 10 to 15 years, we may need that money to build a seawall on our park. 3, all right, is going to be that we don't have, look, Cavista, done, on the books. Little Farm, when's that coming along? And then what's our third one? Because there's only 3. We have 3 opportunities at building development fees. These guys can design so they don't have to pay us any fees. Little Farm can design so they don't have to pay us any fees. One's off the table already. Cavista's done. The sanctuary, how much that lot also can accommodate the green space required. So we're almost certainly not going to get anywhere near a building fee that equals Cavista off of the sanctuary whenever somebody does something with that. In the Little Farm, I'm not counting any of those chickens because they can design their way out of paying us fees. We had one, so now the way I see it is, this is our one chance at some type of a nest egg, and if we don't protect it in 10 to 15 years, we're gonna be thinking, why in the hell didn't we hold on to that money? So, so those are my 3 reasons for why I will fight, and I mean I will fight to make sure that we have a plan to replenish those funds if we use them. We don't have a bunch of opportunities like this.
No,
We're not
the only
gonna have-
opportunity we have is for the
So-
property assess,
Yeah.
property.
So, now,
Taxes.
now look, as we come down to making a decision on the fleet plan specifically, right, which is what we're talking about here with the vehicle. So as we come down to we will be required to do something because of the condition of our fleet, right? I am open to all manner of possibilities, including those development fees. I just think that we should absolutely break a sweat and possibly pull a few muscles trying to figure out how we can solve it before.
No, absolutely.
So that's it. That's where I'm at.
And remember, a portion of the
Yeah.
development fee,
Right,
not
right,
the development
right. No,
fee.
I'm with you. A very small portion. A very small portion.
Which is
Yes,
over,
less than 10%.
which is
Yes.
over what the actual full development fee
I'm with you.
is.
I'm
So
with you. Okay.
just something to keep in mind. Something's going to be later on. You
Okay,
guys, something to keep
so
in
to
mind.
wrap up here, we believe that in the same avenue towards March of solving the law enforcement fleet, that we are at the same time going to solve the code enforcement gremlin problem, right?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Madam Manager, do you have anything else to add on this subject?
No.
Very good. Mr. Attorney? Okay. Committee?
We're good.
All right, very good. Moving on to the next item, which is the tracking report. Madam Manager, if you do want to take a seat, I won't mind at all.
That's fine.
I can cover this.
Okay, good.
Yeah. All right. All right. I had it open just a second ago. There we go. Okay. All right. I don't know if you guys have it in front of you, but it's just 6 items. First item, it's on the tracking report because we've been talking about it for a year. New vehicle maintenance, cannot wait for budget hearings, critical. We've gotten there tonight. All right. Item number 2, short-term rentals. So Airbnbs, et cetera, right? So the reason this is on code enforcement tracking report is because if we codify anything like this, code enforcement is going to be immediately responsible for putting this on their task list, right? So I spoke with the attorney, and he's saying that there will be direction of some kind. We'll have an idea of where the state legislature is headed in terms of short-term rentals sometime this month, which means by March, we should be able to have some type of a discussion item on the agenda for, okay, with input from the attorney about where should we be headed for ordinances regarding short-term rentals. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Committees will be meeting in this month and next, and we'll know what bills are introduced. The session itself, by the time we get to our March meeting, the session will be approximately halfway done. Now, whether it gets resolved in March or it doesn't get done till closer to the end of the session at the end of April, I can't predict, but we'll certainly by our March meeting, by the committee meeting, maybe not as much. We'll certainly know what bills are introduced. They are subject to being amended and sometimes up at the last minute and sometimes back and forth. The House and the Senate may have different ideas. So we'll surely know more.
Okay,
But on the other hand, the session should conclude at the end of April, and then whatever it is. Although, let me say, sometimes the governor vetoes things,
right.
and something can get through both houses. There was that, for instance, the bill on banning the plastic bags passed both houses that would prohibit banning plastic bags. The governor vetoed. That was unexpected. So. But we'll certainly have a better idea where it stands, what the battle lines are, what's being introduced, what's being talked about by them. And, you know, even when the session's over, even when it's signed, sometimes they pass something, we pass something.
Right.
And the next year, somebody says, hey, that didn't work out, we'll change it.
Okay, very good. And then, you know, for us in committee here, as we get into planning and zoning is really where this is going to get worked out. But again, it's on code enforcement radar because it'll be, if something, whatever gets passed as far as an ordinance on short-term rentals, code enforcement's going to be involved, right? So if we can develop that ordinance in parallel with the state legislature, because it's going to take us a couple of sessions, we're going to want to have a town hall on it. You know, it's going to take us to the end of the year before we would have anything actionable anyway. So we may as well kind of get to work on it while, so I anticipate the short-term rentals coming on to the code enforcement agenda. I'll be leaning on the planning and zoning chair also to get that on the planning and zoning agenda and see what we can't work out in terms of an ordinance through the committees and have something tangible by the end of the year.
And it should be a public safety as well.
Right. No, truly, absolutely. So, yeah, it involves a lot. So, all right. Any input on the item of short-term rentals beyond?
No, yes, and on the short-term rentals, is that for us to have, so there's nothing there so we can do to license so they can have.
We have some limitations based on what legislation is already passed in the state. We have some limitations.
2011, that was 2011.
Right,
Prior
right.
to that, if you didn't have any.
Correct. So,
Okay.
yeah, so we're operating under those rules and we're essentially open to do whatever we want. The concern becomes if we start to develop an ordinance that is going contrary to what the state is developing, then our ordinance might have to be changed once that process is finished. But
So I'm sorry, let me
may as well get
interrupt. So
started.
even though the house, the residents are being using as a commercial property, pretty much, or so we're not allowed to even require them to be licensed or have a license fee or,
Well, it depends. The thing is, it's been addressed almost every year, and it changes every year.
Yeah.
The state has the right to preempt it. And the thing is that some of the people who are running things up there are apparently more concerned with individual owners' property rights than they are with the desire of local government to protect its citizens from abuses. And so there has been a tendency, not just in that area, but in a lot of things affecting municipal government, for people to try to pass things that tie the hands of municipal government because they view that as infringing on private property rights. On the other hand, there are some things that people say shouldn't be open to regulation or prohibition by the state. For example, there's legislation that affects what happens in a swimming pool where there's a pump that's sucking water out, and there's some regulations that require covers for that because you've had incidences, particularly with some young girls whose long hair got pulled into that and they drowned. And so there's a real powerful argument that there are some kinds of regulations that are so important as far as safety regulations. The same may apply to things related to fire, some life, health, safety things that the state absolutely should not be able to prevent local governments from enforcing, and maybe ought to be state regulations themselves. But whether that extends to the fact that they're going to have a noisy party late at night, and it's essentially turned into a party house in a commercial setting, even though the owner says, oh, but I'm not a company, I'm just an individual, I bought this property, I've got money invested. So there's real tension there and really strong feelings. And, you know, now there's a new speaker and a new Senate president for this coming term. It's just really very uncertain what this year's version is going to look like. But for sure, it's going to be a major item of contention this year. And so what I had suggested to the chair, to the vice mayor, was before we do something, we need to be clear at least on what this year's version is going to be. Now, they could change it again next year and the year after that, but this year for sure it's going to be a big issue.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and then, and so, there are, so before we get too far into this though, this will be the focus, probably one of the focuses of the March agenda, because we'll have more information at that point. So we could probably formulate, say, you know, we could formulate the larger plan that we want to have for short-term rentals, and then maybe, you know, it's like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, where, okay, we know that we're going to be okay enacting licensing, for example, right? So we go ahead and ordinance that, right? So maybe we break the, but this will be, this is going to be, I think, a focus, because it's up in the legislature, and then we need to do something in terms of ordinance for short-term rentals.
And let me just add, this is also something that the village may want to, you know, we had the lobbyists last time. The village may want to consider instructing the village lobbyists that in addition to the dollars that they're pursuing on behalf of the village, this is an issue that they should be involved in. The Florida League of Cities is very heavily involved in pushing this issue on behalf of the cities, so that cities have the right to adopt their own ordinances, because cities are different. You know, what Miami Beach does in regulating these may be very different than what Virginia Gardens, not a real, and they're friends of mine, but it's not a real hot spot for party houses.
Or where you have,
Virginia Gardens,
or we have a hotel lobby fighting against you, yeah.
Right, it may be a very different thing, and again, that's a very good point, you know,
Yeah.
where are the hotels on this, they don't want the competition. So, there's a lot of people at the table on this, and that's why you may wanna have the lobbyists put it on their radar as well. But we need at least some idea, I mean, to adopt an ordinance, and frankly, to raise the expectations of residents that you can do something and then have the legislature go prohibited is something we need to consider.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. I'm going to, just with the tracking report here, I'm going to keep us in the committee here. Any other comments on short-term rentals? Okay.
No.
All right, next one is derelict vehicles. We know this has been an issue in terms of residents complaining about eyesores and things like that. So I just have it on here to track. I think that it would be beneficial to kind of figure out some clear guidance, again through planning and zoning, on specific language for like abandoned vehicles, derelict vehicles, vehicles that might be posing a problem where, like, say, it's been abandoned so long that animals are able to take up roost in the vehicle, for example, things like this. So, so there you go. It's been a point of contention among different residents. So I have it on the tracking report. Like, hey, let's see what we can do about this in the future here. Derelict structure. So number 4 is we might need a possibility of having stronger language to give our code enforcement more teeth and being able to deal with property owners who have like rundown, derelict, even abandoned properties. Any comments on this one?
What do you guys, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Because, and you know, I brought this up at the full council meeting. What was that? I don't know if it was December's or November's. Part was December's. It was December's. But it's just really unfair to the residents that keep up their property values and keep up their homes to have residents that don't. And, you know, like, you know, liens aren't, you know, they're like we were, you know, they're not created to be, you know, income. They're not created to be income source for anybody. But but there's certain things that, and I'm gonna be on a mayor's call about just all type of problems that are like this or whatever next month, but a national mayor's call. But I think we just need to start to at least do something, right? We need to start to change something. And so I'm just going to float the idea out there right now. This is something that we can address, you know, more in detail because of time at the next committee meeting in March. But I want you guys to kind of, you know, put in the back of your minds the idea that maybe we should get rid of warnings. Because if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chair, the way that we do with code enforcement is that when we find like a violation or something, how many warnings do we give before we actually start to cite?
Yeah, so for example, when Officer King started, you know, what we found is what we knew, or we already knew this, which was the former code enforcement officer, Carlos, had issued nothing but warnings. So even when he issued a citation, there was no documentation with it. And so that was one of Officer King's biggest challenges as he updated our records, was that there was no documentation to go along with any of the citations. So we found, which we already knew, that, you know, Carlos is a great guy, but, you know, code enforcement, you know, it's not exciting. Nobody likes you if you're citing them, you know, so that's why it's been so beneficial to have Officer King and now this young lady who has a lot of experience because we know that they know what they're looking for, and when they issue a citation, they know which documentation needs to go along with it so that there's teeth there, right? So we get compliance. So I think I might actually agree with you on that.
I mean, something that we don't have to do it permanently. It's something that we might want to implement and try it out for maybe like a year or something like that. Just because it seems like I just really feel sorry for the individuals and the residents who work hard and keep their house up.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel bad for them that there's individuals that don't, and for them to get warnings. Like, let's just get straight to the point. I think we should just start with citations.
Yeah, and then another thing I've considered in the past is putting like almost like classifying, like, you know, so that's why I have worded as derelict structures, not out of compliance homes, you know, derelict structures, right? So so that needs immediate attention because you have things like pestilence, you have things like physical dangers, you have things, you know, there's an added degree of danger presented to the residents once it gets to a certain point, as opposed to the aesthetics, right? So maybe we create a class of violations that are you know, exempt from warnings, and they go straight to citation. You know, so maybe it's a hybrid like that. but I agree, you know, I think one of the biggest problems was that nobody ever believed that they were gonna be coerced into compliance, you know, and so, so there was never any incentive almost whatsoever to even get back into compliance. And now that went on for how many years, which means the habit is there, which means now we have a habit that's not great. But we have now our second phenomenally qualified code enforcement officer, so we're on the right track in terms of code enforcement, right? Now we just got to provide ordinances that give code enforcement a little more teeth.
And Mr. Chair, you might want to touch on this also, Mr. Chair. For anybody who's been looking around like for the past month or so or a couple of months and been like, man, like it seems like code enforcement's not doing their job or things are not as good as they were a few months ago or something like that. You might want to touch on how we've not been without an official code enforcement officer for how long?
Well, in the last,
officially, Mr. King officially left his job more or less.
Madam Manager,
Madam
it
Manager.
was in December.
Mr. King, our last code enforcement officer officially left his job here was when? What month?
But
First week of December or
but
something
at
like
different
that, right?
but at different points of the year last year, there were sick leave for incredibly good reason, and then genuine illness, and then after dealing with that, COVID positivity, and so through those two realities, we were inefficient essentially for most of last year, honestly. So
I just want to point that out just to show that hopefully now not to discredit Officer King, I would have him back in a heartbeat because he also put us well down the path of being updated, digitized, and organized. So, I mean, he was absolutely invaluable to us. I truly feel that way. So, even with the leave of absences. Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, I just want to, well, first of all, obviously, we're not alone in having had issues during the pandemic. I mean, that's why it's a pandemic. It's everywhere, and this village is certainly not immune from it. As far as warnings, let me just point out that the ability to issue these liens is, again, strictly regulated by Florida statute. I don't have it open in front of me, but my recollection is warnings under some circumstances are mandated by the statute. That's, again, you never want to have anything off the top of your head. I'll look further at that since it's an issue. But I believe that they are, in some circumstances, it's not our option to do that because our ordinances can only implement the law of what the state allows us to do. Now, having said that, the Vice Mayor is correct also in talking about the different classes. There are a lot of things we can do for anything that's a life, health, safety issue that goes beyond your paint is peeling. That's unaesthetic but not dangerous. But if you have a pool that's out of repair and not secured, or if you have grass so high that it's allowing vermin, there are things that the village is empowered not just to lien you for, but to actually step in and take action and lien property to recover whatever costs we may incur. But there are issues with enforcement of liens that come into play if somebody has homesteaded the property because they're very difficult to foreclose. So it's a conversation I'm happy to have with all of you, and I'll take another look at the statute. But typically, the problem is not the strength of the law in the books. We've gone to court to enforce nuisance ordinances. And we did that when the trailer park was in severe disrepair, and we went to court. The issue tends to be more the consistency of citation and enforcement. And again, I don't want to make it's late, and I don't want to delay this any more than necessary, but a final note on it, the goal of code enforcement is compliance. So if you have people who may not realize that the fact that they haven't painted their house and that it is unappealing looking, they may be aware that the house needs a coat of paint. They may not realize that it's a violation of the law and that they can be cited for it. So sometimes just telling people, hey, you're out of compliance, you better fix it, can accomplish what you're trying to do. And then you get from those people to the hard cases who are really scofflaws. And we probably have remedies against them. We just need to be prepared to pursue them vigorously and to enforce the rights that we have against them.
And that was actually one other thing that Officer King helped us with was putting us back on. We had the plan, but he was like, hey, we need to be utilizing the plan. So in terms of magistrate and bringing people in and having a hearing, that was another thing that Officer King was able to do, was get us comfortable that, okay, we're in a space where we can do that if we need to. So, because we weren't doing any of that in the years prior. So that was just one more thing that Officer King did for us. So, so there you go.
Yeah, another thing, if I may, another thing that's been going out of control, it's the trash bins. People leaving the trash bins in front of their properties. I mean, and our charter says it, and it should not be seen. So it has to be inside your property. It has to be, cannot be left outside. And so that simple thing tells you people, the residents has to be, they have to know what the rules and regulations are. And, that simple thing of just getting your trash bin and put it inside your house or your patio or whatever, not to be seen, is just part of being a neighbor and, having a nice looking village.
So I think it's time for, I just wrote down Town Hall July. I think it's time for a code enforcement town hall perhaps.
Mr. Chair, we could either do, we should do a code enforcement town hall, but we should also do, all we have to do is, let's make a flyer.
A series of PSAs.
Let's make a flyer. It could be a flyer, front and back flyer, just like real quick code enforcement things that just people just need to like look out for. Just real small list. We could probably, I don't know, maybe we can put some image behind it, like an image with like a little blurb.
And then I'll start utilizing the newsletter also.
Yeah, and the newsletter would be a good place. But yeah, we could definitely do a flyer, and we could just print out the flyers, and we could put them in those plastic door hangers where the plastic has a little thing where we can just hang it right on the doorknob. People could take it out, look and be like, oh yeah, oh I didn't know that, or so.
Yeah, like I spoke to a few of my neighbors and they were like, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, and then they started putting it inside.
I'm
So
sitting
it's
there
just as
thinking, wait a
simple as
minute,
that,
just hiding behind my car count with the bins, yeah. So, okay, any other discussion on this derelict structures? All right, the next item is temporary structures. This is kind of just a placeholder in there, tracking report to discuss, if you're throwing a larger party and you're putting up an actual temporary structure, are we gonna start, having a fee for that, right? And then the last one, filming fees and licenses. I think this is worth discussing. I think it's worth considering because as density increases, there's gonna be fewer and fewer locations available. On top of that, a lot of the locations available for people to do filming inside of like a neighborhood or inside of a house, well, most of those neighborhoods now the houses are becoming more and more modern. And so those are not usually desirable for filming style. I think we're gonna actually have an increase in people looking to do filming in El Portal. And I believe that we should have licenses to go along with that and turn that into it's not gonna make us rich, but you know, we need to find almost every single revenue source we can that is fair. You know, it's not just taxing people just to tax them, you know. So anyway, I have that on here at the bottom, filming fees and licenses to discuss.
May I
Yes,
weigh in
please.
on your item, sir?
Yes.
Well, I just want to state that we do have an interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County's film permitting that, I mean, we're certainly able to have our own permits as well, as some other municipalities do. I'm going to just pass this to you, just so you have it for record, but presently, we are allowing, we're through the interlocal have, you can buy a permit from Miami-Dade County for $100, and then they contact us to ask if we would allow the permit, or allow the filming. What we do is we require them to have an off-duty police officer, if they're gonna obstruct traffic in any way, and that is just a requirement. So, and the rate for the off-duty police officer is $50 an hour with 4-hour minimum. So, that's where we're at presently, but, through this interlocal, we are still able to do our own permitting if we require it. So, there's a back page, that will show you what Coconut Grove, I believe. It's, Coral Gables, Key Biscayne, Miami Beach, Virginia Garden. They, require filming permits, as well, but, you know,
Okay.
just something to think about.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Any,
Yeah, no, it's all good. No, not anything really extra. Just I remember, Madam Manager, the reason why we started to get really involved with that, and we found out all that information, that was because of the filming that was happening back here, at the White House that's back here in Sherwood Forest, and so that continuously started to happen, and that's why we had to reach out to Miami-Dade County, and they gave us this.
Okay, very good. I, you know, obviously have it on the tracking report because I personally do think that it's worth us looking into having our own licensing. And I do think that there's gonna be an increase of this over the next, you know, foreseeable future because we're gonna continue to be, one of the more unique areas of Miami. So there you go. All right, very good.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. All right. I believe that brings us to good and welfare. So anybody have anything they'd like to add or anything at all? Open forum. All right. Going once, going twice. Very good. Anybody on the dais have anything else to add for the evening?
No problem. I just want to say thank you guys, both of you guys, for having these first committee meetings, you know, of the year. And we just have a lot of work to do. We just need to get on it. I just want to try to, you know, establish us, you know, all of us up here that we're just going to see what the problem is, attack the problem, and then come to a solution, come to, you know, a way of doing what we're going to do. You know, like I always say, you know, we won't always agree. You know, all of us want the best thing for the village, but we might have different ideas of how to get there. We just have to debate it out. But I just want to see, like, you know, us debate it out and just get to the action, make decisions, just get to the action, and not be talking about the same thing next year and the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to get to it.
No, I agree. And before I asked for adjournment, you know, that was one of the things that actually made me feel a lot better about choosing to run for the seat and be up here, was that I truly do feel that the way this is designed to work is you have 5 individuals who are their own entity who come up here and get together and work things out. And so I'm very encouraged to see that, you know, for me personally, I do feel that I have the ability to represent, you know, myself, my views, and obviously that's important to me, and I think that should be important to anybody else who'd be up here too. So hopefully anybody who's thinking about running,
You guys should run.
yes. So
You had great ideas. Sign up.
so anyone who would be
Oh, you
thinking
can't.
about it, you should, because you do get to be yourself up here. You do get to present your own ideas, and that's been great. So, all right. Is there a motion to adjourn the code enforcement
I
committee?
make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Very good.
Oh, you want to say? Oh, you good? I make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
All right. Second.
Yes, I'll second
All right. I got a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning the code enforcement committee meeting? Say
Aye. Aye.
Very good. Any nays? Fantastic. The code enforcement committee meeting January 5th, 2021 is adjourned at 10:41 PM.